It's the Rob Carson Show. Are you ready to be podsmacked? Now, here's Rob Carson.
And this would be episode number 104 of the Rob Carson Show podcast. Today is the 30th of May, 2017, the day after Memorial Day. I hope you had a glorious Memorial Day. I know I did. I reflected on a lot of people in my life who have served and some who are still with us and some who are not, including my dad and my uncles and my brother. Hope you had a wonderful weekend, and I hope you didn't treat it just as a bookend to the summer. But Memorial Day is past. We are well on the way to summer. I want to, before we get into the show, welcome our brand new sponsor. Dr. Alex Nelson is a chiropractor. Had him on the show the other day, episode 101, actually. And I'll tell you what, guys, I used to poo-poo chiropractic. I used to think, okay, yeah, really pseudoscience. But no, no. I had a couple instances, whether it be a sciatic nerve pinch, whether it be one time I was told by a sports medicine doctor that I had a heart problem because I was feeling pain in my shoulder and my neck and my arm. Turned out it was an impacted vertebra, and chiropractic fixed it immediately. All right? You got headaches, asthma, neck pain, back pain, low back, shoulder pain, carpal tunnel. I'm going to tell you, you should consider a chiropractic. Now, this isn't eliminating traditional medicine. No. But this is a treatment that a lot of the times when traditional medicine doesn't have the answers, I will just tell you what's worked for me, okay? They have athletes, police officers, firefighters, first responders. They all come in and they talk to Dr. Alex. Here is the website. It is fountainoflifechiro.com, fountainoflifechiro.com. They're at 8335 North Congress Avenue. Just plug that 8335 North Congress Avenue, Kansas City. I'll give you the number too. Okay, 816-741-4711. 816-741-4711. But remember this, fountainoflifechiro.com. They were a sponsor of the show, and I'm a believer. It has saved me many, many times. All right, so lots of stuff to get to today. We've got some campus madness to get to. We've got some political stuff, some non-political stuff. I would assume you heard Tiger Woods got busted for DUI. I don't know. You know, in this country, we are like sharks on chum. Some people resent success and hate success. And when we see someone fall, a lot of the times we will celebrate the fall. I don't celebrate the fall of Tiger Woods. I don't. I mean, he was a douche with his wife, and he cheated on his wife, and he was kind of a perv or whatever. But I don't celebrate the fall of Tiger Woods because he was an amazing golfer, and it appears that that's over. I don't know. 41 years old. He was arrested in Jupiter, Florida, on Indian Creek Parkway. Faces a charge of driving under the influence of either alcohol or drugs. He said he was on 4 different prescription meds. He was driving erratically all over the road. Officer smelled alcohol and said that he became arrogant. That's not cool. The officer asked Woods to blow into a breathalyzer. He refused. Now, that automatically results in a DUI arrest and license suspension. I'm kind of curious. And listen, you shouldn't drive drunk, right? Get it. But in many states right now, if you can refuse to submit to a blood test because it's invasive, but you can blow into a breathalyzer and that's fine, and you're immediately pronounced guilty if you don't do the breathalyzer. I don't know. Either way, you are removing something that could be a conduit for alcohol from your body. I don't understand it. Well, anyway, apparently it's the second time he'd been caught for driving under the influence. 2009. He was taking Ambien, crashed his Cadillac Escalade into a fire hydrant, a tree, and several hedges. All right. Ambien, oh, listen, Ambien is, whew, Ambien is glorious, but you've got to literally, honey, hide the keys. If you take Ambien, I've taken Ambien. Ambien's glorious. Oh my God, you sleep so well under Ambien. But you, honey, hide the keys because there are some people who do some weird stuff. Weird stuff. Tiger Woods, a 14-time major winner, formerly world number one. He's now 876th in the world rankings. Well, still, I mean, you consider you got 6 billion people. 876 is pretty good. I don't know how many golfers there are out there, but anyway. Tiger Woods, I don't know. This is a story that just drives me absolutely bat crap crazy. Callie Wilgus, Liz Connolly opened up Cook's Burrito, Portland, Oregon. They took a trip to Puerto Nuevo, Mexico last December. They came back, decided that they were going to open up a burrito place. They went there, and they spoke. Apparently, they spoke to the Willamette Week newspaper. Said one of them said, Connolly said, I picked the brains of every tortilla lady there in the worst broken Spanish ever. They showed me a little of what they did. They came back and they made tortillas and burritos. She said in Puerto Nueva, you can eat $5 lobster on the beach, which they give to you with this bucket of tortillas. They're handmade flour tortillas. They're stretchy, a little buttery. Best of all, unlimited. Do not eat lobster on the beach. I don't know how Mexico is, but I did it in Jamaica, and I got salmonella. Not a good thing. Not a good thing. Well, anyway, they came back, and apparently these comments that she made onto a food blog were published, and a bunch of politically correct assholes decided to latch on to them as this idiotic cultural appropriation argument. Alicia Dominguez, you nice ladies stole hardworking and low-income Mexican women's tortilla recipes and now turning a profit. Oh, by the way, they went out of business. They had to close down because dickheads like this put them out of business. Dick Scott, D-I-Q-U-E, Dick Scott. Problem with Cook's Burritos is that these women have no passion or respect for the culture from which they stole. They barely spoke the language, and they were not offered the recipes they were stolen. Okay, let me just say this right now. All you Italians in the audience, you stole pasta from the Chinese. How about that? How does that make you feel? Pasta started in China. Pizza Hut, Domino's, cultural appropriation. That's Italian. It's really beyond the pale, honestly. When you look at this piece that was published in the, not the Willamette Daily, there's another paper. They said that getting the weekend taco truck closed was a victory in Portland, a city it accused of having underlying racism. These appropriating businesses are erasing and exploiting their already marginalized identities for the purpose of profit and praise. Cook's Burritos, good riddance. This according to Jonas Lord. However, after the news of this business's closing, many came to the defense of these two people. One said, burritos are from Los Angeles. Okay, they're not from Mexico. Tortilla making is easy and not a secret. Thank you very much. It's a either corn or flour patty that you cook. Unbelievable. Another person said, oh, my God, you can't be serious. Well, serious, but they are. They are serious. They are serious, and it is frightening. It is really, really frightening. The war on free speech in America is, troubling to say the least, especially on America's campuses. Got some madness with regard to political correctness on campus. I want to get to Evergreen State. This is a school that has attempted to, at least many students have tried to have a professor fired because he objected to an event that would have kicked white students and faculty off campus for a day. Now, normally what they do is they people of color do not attend classes one day, do not show up to work one day to show the impact of people of color on the campus. Okay, so there's your big. This year they decided to reverse it and make it incredibly racist by saying that all white people need to be off campus for one day. This is, to me, this is frightening. And I mentioned this the other day in a podcast, that we are reaching a point where white privilege, hatred is becoming talk of genocide to some degree. The abolition of whiteness course being offered at Hunter College is one of them. Abolition of whiteness course. It's supposed to discuss white supremacy and violence influence individual identity. When you say abolition of whiteness, you are saying to me, you are saying to my son, my daughter, you need to be destroyed. I'm a white guy. I've never said a racist thing in my life. I've never had a racist thought in my life. Believe me or not, you probably won't, because if you subscribe to these idiotic beliefs, you immediately think that because I am a white man, a Caucasus, as it were. Although I don't even know where I'm from. I'm adopted, so I could. Who the hell knows what's in my background? But it is venturing toward genocide. Anyway, students are demanding that a professor, Brett Weinstein, who, by the way, is a rabid liberal, he calls himself a progressive, at Evergreen State College, said, I'm not going to leave campus for a day because I'm white. No. And now they are raising holy hell at Evergreen State. Here is a little bit of audio from some of these spoiled, entitled, asshole students at Evergreen State demanding this guy resign because he refused, as a white man, to leave campus. Right? These aren't just kids of color. These are a lot of kids. They are spoiled. They're entitled. They're going to an expensive private school. They are claiming victimhood. Now, this whole victimhood agenda is growing out of control. Millennials on campus are claiming victimhood, racism, whatnot, even though so many more white people in this country are in poverty. Have you been to southern Missouri or parts of Arkansas? Have you been to Appalachia? Okay. There are a lot of white people in poverty, too. So this just sickens me. But here are some of these spoiled and entitled assholes at Evergreen State. And by the way, I think that the president of the university, although this university president is a pussy, he has capitulated to their demands in a number of ways. A lot of these students are demanding things, even though they really don't have any standing to demand anything. They don't have any power or whatever. All they have is the charge of, if you don't agree with us, you're racist. That's what it's really all about. Here's some audio from these a-holes at Evergreen State.
These racist teachers have got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. These racist teachers have got to go.
Okay,
hey, hey.
so
Teachers have got to go. Hey, hey.
there's this professor who just says, I'm not a racist guy. He's never said a racist thing in his life. He just said, I'm not going to leave campus because I'm white one day. Because he does something they disagree with. He is a racist. I thought this would die out eventually. I really thought the charge of racism, the faux charge of racism would die out. I was wrong.
Ho, ho. These racist teachers have got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. These racist teachers have got to go. Black power. Black power. Black power.
Now, if you said white power, don't you suppose that there would be some sort of outcry? You could say black power, though. Oh, yeah.
Black power. Black power. Black power.
Get your asses to your classes. And if you don't, you will be expelled. Easy.
Or do it.
Put your hand down. That's my problem, George. You keep doing these.
What about our
protection right now!
Some of the little crybaby snowflake bitches saying that they don't need protections on campus, screaming at the administrators, and the administrators capitulate to this sort of crap rather than treating them like the children they are.
Fuck you and fuck the police!
And fuck the police! Unbelievable.
I would suggest that you take under heavily consideration those that oppose the training and
That's how whiteness works. Whiteness is the most violent fucking system to ever breathe.
Whiteness is the most violent fucking system to ever breathe. These are people who are spoiled, entitled, have never experienced anything like Martin Luther King Jr. experienced, and yet they're at school now, and you can blame a lot of this crap on BLM, on the blame culture, rather than looking introspectively on what's going on in the country, particularly in inner cities, where there is a 70% rate of abortion before children are born in the black population, and there is a 70 or 80% rate of fatherless homes.
I want to cry. I can't tell you how fast my heart is beating right now. I'm shaking in my boots.
Oh, I feel so bad for you, shaking in your boots. At this college, it costs $50,000 a year to go to. Get your asses to your classes, or you will be booted from this school. That's what I would say. That's what I would say. Here is one of the students speaking at a rally. This child is functionally illiterate. Okay, I want you to listen to this moron who's reading some sort of a edict or whatever to the crowd. And this child, this ignorant child who goes to school at Evergreen State, attempts to read. I think she needs to focus a little bit more on reading rather than on demanding.
Has demonstrated anti-blackness in the pigeonholing, charging, and sentencing of two black trans disabled students.
Didn't know how to pronounce disabled, by the way. This sounds like my daughter in first grade trying to read.
Based on false, racially charged allegations.
Okay, didn't know how to read effing allegations. You moron. Let's listen to this idiot again, please.
Has demonstrated anti-blackness in the pigeonholing, charging, and sentencing of two black trans disabled students based on false, racially charged allegations.
First grade reading level. And they're demanding. I mean, honestly, wow. Get your asses to your classes. Get your asses to your classes. Mayor of Portland wants the federal government to revoke a permit for a Trump free speech rally. Okay? Now, you may recall there was a white supremacist on a train in Portland Friday. Apparently, he was berating a Muslim woman, and he ended up killing two people who stepped in bravely to defend this woman. Another man was severely injured. Because of this, the mayor of Oregon, Ted Wheeler, has called for the federal government to revoke an already issued permit for what he believes is an alt-right protest scheduled to take place on Sunday. Now, this is a pro-Trump rally. He says, my concern is they're coming here to peddle a message of hatred and bigotry. They have a First Amendment right to speak, but hate speech is not protected. Now, in this case, as I've said before, the left views hate speech as speech they hate. That's really what it's all about. Now, you'll recall that leftists in Washington, D.C., the day after Donald Trump was elected, wrecked the place. You may recall that Milo Yiannopoulos tried to speak at Berkeley. They wrecked the place. Did anyone say anything about the alt left? No. This is a convenient excuse to shut down political discourse. They see a batshit crazy person on a public transportation vehicle attacking several people, and they blame it all on a movement or a group of people which are conservatives. Ridiculous. Fareed Zakaria on CNN, one of the most reasonable things I've heard him say lately, did a diatribe about free speech on campus and in the country with regard to conservative free speech and how it's being shut down. Yeah, I know. Fareed Zakaria saying something that actually made sense. Here's a little bit of his monologue on free speech and shutting down conservatives.
Now for our What in the World segment. We're at the height of commencement season, and across the nation, people are imparting their words of wisdom to newly minted graduates.
By the way, I have a sample of couple of commencement speeches where leftists have made them completely political. And it's sickening to me. These are meant to be speeches that inspire. I don't know. It should not be overtly political. I wouldn't want my college graduation speech to be overtly political. I want it to be inspiring. But unfortunately, Democrats refuse to do that.
To name just a few, Joe Biden was at Harvard and Cornell, Oprah spoke at Skidmore, and I was honored to give the commencement speech at Bucknell this year. But at Notre Dame, where Vice President Mike Pence was giving the commencement address, the ceremonies were interrupted when about 100 students turned their backs on Pence and walked out in protest.
I'm so damn sick of this shit. I'm just so damn sick of this shit on campus. Yeah. Notre Dame, 100 students turned their backs because they didn't want to hear the Vice President of the United States, who is a fine vice president, by the way, also governor of the state at one point, and they decide they're going to walk out. These are ignorant children. These are ignorant children who, when they graduate from college, are going to have their asses kicked by the real world, because in the real world, at least for now, you can be heard when your speech is unpopular, although I'm afraid that's changing.
A few weeks earlier, U.S. Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos was booed while giving the commencement address at Bethune-Cookman University. I talked about this issue at Bucknell, and I wanted to share those thoughts here. American universities these days seem committed to every kind of diversity except intellectual diversity.
This is why these universities need to have their funding pulled. And I'm not, say it, I'm not fucking around. This is why these universities need to have their funding pulled. This is why these academic douchebags who are in charge of these universities, former president, former chancellor of the University of Missouri, prime examples. They capitulated to a stupid, pointless movement. They ended up losing their jobs. Get your asses to your classes. If you don't want to go to school here, do not go to school here. If you try to interrupt free speech, if you try to quell free speech, your butt is gone. If you take part in a disruptive and damaging protest, your ass is gone. A little more from Fareed Zakaria.
The word liberal in this context has nothing to do with today's partisan language, but refers instead to the Latin root, pertaining to liberty. And at the heart of the liberal tradition in the Western world has been freedom of speech.
Now, when I was in my 20s, somebody told me that liberal meant open-minded. It is the opposite today. It is the absolute opposite today. It is closed-minded. It is, and I remember this started 25 years ago. I lived in Minneapolis for a while. We used to have some liberal friends, and I remember one night we were at a party, and I tried to express my views as a libertarian leaning conservative. I literally had people plugging their ears and humming. I'm not effing around. I had some liberal friends in Washington, D.C. I was ostracized when they discovered that I was a conservative. I have been unfriended on Facebook more times than I care to even imagine. And this is from friends who I thought were really my friends, just for saying things like the Women's March in Washington, D.C. after Donald Trump's inauguration was a joke. I was unfriended. I tell you what, my Facebook page, my personal Facebook page, nobody interacts with me anymore. None of my liberal friends. And I know who you are, guys. And I think it's shameful. And I remember I went back to Washington, D.C., and I went to a party with some of my friends. One of the women there wore her Women's March T-shirt because she heard my podcast, and she had unfriended me. And I love her, and I would have never done the same thing, but whatever. Liberal means intolerant, unaccepting, and literally, knocking on dangerous door.
From the beginning, people understood that this meant protecting and listening to speech with which you disagreed. Oliver Wendell Holmes once said that when we protect freedom of thought, we are protecting freedom for the thought that we hate.
Thank you.
Freedom of speech and thought is not just for warm, fuzzy ideas that we find comfortable. It's for ideas that we find offensive.
Now, this is obvious, okay? If you've been listening to my podcast, you know that's obvious. But unfortunately, on campus, hate speech is speech that you hate. And it only works from left to right. If you are on the left and you see speech that you hate coming from the right, that's hate speech. And that's what they're using to silence people. And it's sickening. Princeton University professor Keeanga Yamata Taylor issued a bunch of different vile attacks against Donald Trump last week when she delivered her commencement address at Hampshire College, a private liberal arts college in Amherst, Massachusetts. She's an angry lesbian. Nothing against being a lesbian, but she is an angry chip on her shoulder lesbian. I don't know what the hell a chip on her shoulder is, but anyway, she hates everything. She hates everyone. She blames everyone for any failures. Well, she doesn't have any failures. She's a tenured professor. I mean, she's living large. She's not a coal miner. She's not working on a farm in Iowa. She's a spoiled, entitled. Better use. I don't want to use too coarse of language, but she's spoiled and she's entitled. Let's put it that way. She lives in the upper echelon of society. She teaches at a Ivy League school. She is tenured, so she can't be fired. And yet she's very pissed off. Here's a little bit of her batshit crazy commencement speech. I've got 3 cuts from this. At Hampshire College. Hampshire College, yes. Oh, yeah.
Is a racist, sexist megalomaniac.
Talking about Donald Trump. Woo! Does the crowd go crazy? Woo! Okay.
It is not a benign observation, but has meant tragic consequences.
She's going to get all sorts of academic here, by the way. When you listen to the language, they like to use words with 3 to 5 syllables to make them sound smarter than they are.
For many people in this country, from the terror-inducing raids in the communities of undocumented immigrants.
Yeah, they're not happening, actually.
To his disparaging of refugees in search of freedom and respite.
No, not disparaging at all, just basically saying they needed to be vetted when they come from terror-sponsored countries.
He has empowered an attorney general who embraces and promulgates policies.
Promulgates. You almost pronounced that correctly.
That have already been proven to have a devastating impact on black families and communities.
Now I want you to give me an example.
He thinks that climate science is fake.
No.
And his
No.
eagerness
When climate science comes from the left and has a political agenda, it's fake.
to take the country into war can only be interpreted as a callous disregard for its steep price in both money and human life.
Okay, now this is a commencement address meant to be inspirational. I would assume give the people in the audience, the kids in the audience, maybe a piece of advice about the world, what you've learned from it, perhaps inspiration. Not so much with this Kianga Yamata Taylor. A little bit more from her very inspirational speech.
In the fact that hundreds of thousands of undocumented immigrants have been deported
You're wrong. It hasn't happened.
through raids.
Hasn't happened.
It's found when the U.S. military drops something called the mother of all bombs, the largest non-nuclear weapon in the military's arsenal, that we have a media that is more concerned and interested in the size of the bomb than in the human lives that have been destroyed
It killed ISIS members, you dipshit.
by it. That is the status quo.
Why are you cheering? You should be cheering that the bomb was dropped. Oh, so wrong. So wrong. But this is what we have on campus. You know, this is what we have on campus. Hillary Clinton delivered I'm not going to go there. Screw it. Screw Hillary Clinton. I'm done with her. I was going to share a little bit of her Wellesley speech, but, I'm not going to. Yeah, I'm not going to. Just not going to do it because I'm tired of it. Let's see. What else we got here? I've got a lot of university madness. I don't want to do the whole show on university madness. Let's listen to Chelsea Clinton. She was on, I guess this was on CBS this morning, talking about whether she'd run for public office, which, nobody wants her to do. But that doesn't stop the media from celebrating this spoiled, entitled child pushing 40 years old who's never done a damn thing in her life, from asking her if she's going to run for office.
Savannah, I don't have any plans to. I think we've talked about this before. One of my earliest memories is being 3 years old and standing on the side of one of my dad's campaign rallies, waving an American flag, because when you're 3, you can kind of wave flags and hand out stickers.
Man, she's got a great memory for 3.
Or hold signs, and a woman saying to me, Chelsea, do you think you'll run for governor of Arkansas one day? And I think I said something like, ma'am, I'm 3.
Yeah, she said that at 3. Really? Hold on. This is a 3-year-old. And someone says, and she remembers that someone says, are you going to run for governor of Arkansas? And the 3-year-old says, hello, I'm 3. That's impossible. There was no 3-year-old so self-aware that they go, hello, I'm 3.
So yes, Savannah.
No, you say, no, I'm going to be an astronaut. I'm going to be the leader of the free world. Whatever. I got to hear this again.
Flags and hand out stickers or hold signs. And a woman saying to me, Chelsea, do you think you'll run for governor of Arkansas one day?
I remember
think
this.
I said something like, ma'am, I'm 3. So yes, Savannah, people have asked me this my whole life. I don't think that being
Man, put that adult as a 3-year-old in their place.
citizen is just something that happens in an election year. I think it's something that we have to feel a responsibility to every day. And these days, more than ever, I don't have any plans to run for office. I do plan to keep being an activist and raising my voice online and
spending that $2 billion that the Clinton charity kept when they disbanded after Hillary lost the election. Really? Wow. I guess if you're raised by liars, then you lie. President Trump is going to announce the rollback of Barack Obama's policies toward Cuba. Apparently, a couple different sources say that due to behind-the-scenes efforts of Republican Senator Marco Rubio, Democrat New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez, they're going to turn it around. One of the things was the policy known as wet foot, dry foot, which allowed illegal immigrants from Cuba the path to legal status in the country. Now, the problem with this was all of these freedoms were going to be afforded to the Castros without doing things like, I don't know, allowing people to speak freely or have a legitimate vote in Cuban elections or not be thrown in jail for expressing yourself, those things. That's the thing that I had a problem with regard to the Cuban policy reversal that President Obama did. And fortunately, this president appears to be turning that around. Looks like our credit scores are turning around. More than 6 million U.S. adults will have personal bankruptcies disappear over the next 5 years. I won't say I'm a victim, but the recession really kicked our ass. We bought a house at the wrong time. We'd always kind of assumed that, I guess we should have not assumed it, but whenever you buy a house, you're going to sell it and you're going to make more money off. Well, it didn't happen when we bought the house in 2004 and had to sell it in 2008. But it looks like people are healing their financial wounds now that we have a different president. So I've been out of work since November, and our credit score has gone up thanks to my glorious wife. Glorious wife. She's spectacular. Oh, by the way, I got to mow my yard today. I'm looking forward to it. You know why? Because I got a Dixie Chopper Silver Eagle in the garage from Grass Monsters KC, grassmonsterskc.com. This is a commercial mower. Oh, it's so glorious. 60-inch deck. I've got about a third of an acre. It takes me 7 minutes to mow it. I'm not kidding. All right? I mow my neighbor's yard. I'm like, can I get it for you? I'll just, and I do it. Because I enjoy it. Dixie Chopper mowers, American made in Indiana, and they are spectacular. Whether you want the Z2 for residential, what do you want the Excalibur, the giant industrial mower, the Black Hawk HP brand new, the classic. Or if you want to consider a Hustler. I saw a Hustler mower today on a trailer near my home. These are spectacular mowers. They're made in Kansas. Hustlers or Raptors. Great financing, great warranties. A great business in Raytown, Missouri, 5520 Raytown Road. Just remember, grassmonsterskc.com, grassmonsterskc.com. Talk to my buddy, Andrew, who runs the place. You will love those mowers. Do not go to a big box hardware store and buy one of those mowers chained up in front. Do not. They're junk. I'm going to wrap things up with a light story. This is pretty funny. Guy in California driving a DeLorean on Friday night. Got a ticket. Got pulled over for speeding. I like this guy. He was driving 88 miles an hour. His name is Spencer White. He's from Santa Clara. And he recently got himself an 82 AMC DeLorean. And, of course, you know if you crank it up to 88 miles an hour, you're going to travel through space and time, according to Back to the Future. Now, this makes him the second person to get a ticket for doing 88 in a DeLorean. Last year, a guy in England did the same thing. It's spectacular. I love it. I love it. Hey, and I love you for listening to the podcast. And I hope you'll share it, by the way. It's growing. We're on iTunes. We're on TuneIn. We are on SoundCloud, Patreon, coming soon to iHeartRadio. Share with others the Rob Carson Show podcast. I greatly appreciate it. Help me pay my bills. That'd be great. And want to thank also Dr. Alex Nelson, chiropractic practitioner in Kansas City on Congress Avenue in KC. fountainoflifechiro.com. fountainoflifechiro.com. Chiropractic, I'll tell you what, you know, if you had some issues with your back or your, a variety of things, pain, herniated discs, the whole deal, and you've gone to traditional medicine and traditional medicine said, here, have a pain pill. Well, I won't say don't do that. I will say try chiropractic. FountainOfLifeChiro.com. FountainOfLifeChiro.com. Have a blessed day, guys. We'll see you back very shortly for episode number 105 of the Rob Carson Show podcast. See you then.
Thanks for listening to The Rob Carson Show. Friend him on Facebook at Carson Show, on Twitter at Rob Carson, and on Instagram, I think Facebook and Twitter are enough for now. We'll see you soon.